This is Bedtime Stories, Grownup Edition, The Truth, Part 16. When we left off, True had disappointed all y'all. She did not off Amira. So far, though, 2 of Angela's 3 premonitions have come true, despite her best efforts. Now, she let the Queen Mother know that she had some plan that she was executing. She still has no interest in being the Queen Pin, though, and whatever she's up to is staying under wraps. I wonder if Q knows about it. I guess we'll find out. What we do know is Amira is still up to her shenanigans. She told True that the baby is not Wood's and that she did not delete his fetus because she was further along than she'd realized and was unable to. But she told Wise something different and said that the only reason True didn't off her is because she begged for her life. Now, either she's the smartest dummy in the world, or she's a dummy who thinks that she's smarter than everybody else. But whatever the case, Wise is determined to keep her dumb behind safe. After he got his mother and sister situated at a local hotel, he headed back to the family complex in Denton and his new home with his new wife. Salema said, "So this is the part where I say to you that we can't continue to do this. My family can't be a problem in our relationship, and neither can yours. No matter who it is or what the circumstances are, I am always going to choose the future of the Baptiste family over anybody else's preferences or feelings. That includes yours and mine. I don't have biological siblings, but you know how I feel about my brothers and my sisters. You know that I'd do anything to protect them. But if any of them did half of the things that your sister did, I would understand that there would be retribution, even if we weren't in this life. That's how real life works. Your sister can't deal with the smoke in her face, but she's the one who lit the match." Well, I said, "And you know what? You're right. You got my baby. We should be focused on that. We should be focused on our futures. I should be focused on working and stacking this paper so that I could be doing what I really want to do with my second chance. But we here now, and I didn't create this mess. I didn't start the fire. But I gotta help my sister put it out, if for no other reason than to keep my mother safe. And no matter what my sister did, my niece or nephew deserves a chance to come into this world safe." Now, based on what you said on that phone, it sounds like you don't care a whole bunch about that. Salema said, "Once a woman chooses to have her baby, then I believe that that baby should be protected. But I'm all for a woman's right to choose. And I don't feel like anybody has a right to question her decision." Why, I said, "Not even the father?" Salema said, "That just depends on the circumstances. But in the end, it's always going to be her choice." Why, I said, "So the man, he don't get no say." Salema said, "His say was when he was getting it in. A man gets to decide whether he's going to sleep with a woman. He gets to decide whether he's going to glove up. But once an egg is fertilized, it's all on homegirl." When Wise went to ask Salema about her previous pregnancy experiences, she said, "We agreed that the past is the past. Obviously, I was with people before you just like you were with people before me. I'd rather not go into all the details. All that really matters is that I wasn't ready and they were not the one. So I did what I thought was best. One of them was in agreement, the other was not. I ended the pregnancy and that ended the relationship." Why, I said, "So you told them both?" Salema said, "Yeah." Why, I said, "And what about you and I?" Salema said, "What about you and I?" Why, I said, "You never got pregnant before we got married, before this pregnancy." Salema said, "No." Why, I said, "We agreed not to lie to one another, big gangster." Salema said, "And I'm not." Why, I stared at Salema because he knew something was off. But his instinct said that she wasn't lying. He said, "I'm going to let it go for now. Just know, a woman abort my baby, she's good as dead. Maybe not literally, but in my heart and my head." And Salema did not respond. Then Wise said, "So what we gonna do about my peoples?" Salema said, "I was thinking about that. Since neither you or Wood need to use that house that Q bought, I say we ask him if we can put them up there. And if he says yes, then we need to make sure that that house is wired for video and sound. Because I know True. And I know that she does not get off on having anybody begging and pleading for their lives. If she planned on offing a mirror, she would have. And if she decided to let her live, it would not have been because of anything that Amira said." Why, I said, "I was thinking the same thing." Salema said, "I'm afraid that your sister was more involved with Amir than she's admitted. And if that's the case, she's not going to live much longer." And you're going to have to be okay with that. Wise said, we got to figure out a way to at least get her to delivery. Salema said, and make sure that whatever havoc she's trying to wreak, she does not. Meanwhile, at the Lopez airstrip in New York, True is on a flight heading back to parts unknown. She's playing 20 questions with a lieutenant by the name of Bastion. She said, so, Bosch, how much do you know about this situation? Bosch said, all I know is that I need to be Stax's eyes and ears, that your location and your identity is top secret, and that you're expected. True said, and what do you know about the baby's father? Bosch said, I know that he's looking for you, and you don't want to be found. True said, and you don't know who he is. Bosch said, no, I don't. Should I? True said, you should assume that you know who he is. You should assume that every person you know knows who he is. And that assumption should be the incentive for you keeping your mouth shut about everything, about where you are, about what time it is where you are, about what you had for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, about the stores that you visit, the restaurants that you frequent, and the people that you meet. Not a single solitary detail of your day-to-day life while you're with me should be shared with a single soul. Not your mama, not your siblings, not your baby mama, not your homeboy from way back, not another lieutenant, another general, another right hand, and certainly not a head. Is that something you think you can do, Bosch? Bosch said, I got it. I had almost an identical conversation with Stax. He chose me because he knows that I'm the king of discretion. He also knows that I don't have any ties that would make me a liability, that would give me reason to share anything. And there isn't anybody that I'd want to share anything with. True said, so you live in a silo? Bosch said, I've just seen too many people lose their lives because they didn't know how to keep the main thing the main thing. True said, you're going to be bored. Bosch said, life is way too interesting to be bored. True said, you're going to be cold. Bosch said, I know how to dress warm. True said, you're going to be sex deprived. Bosch said, I was in hiding, alone for 2 years. No human interaction. Not a phone call, a text message, an email, and no snatch. I think I'll survive 5 months. Then True pressed the button and let the pilot know that they could take off. Then she turned to Bosch and said, so tell me more about being in hiding for 2 years. What happened? As the plane taxied, Bosch told True all about his experiences working for the Lopez family over the past 15 years. How he worked his way up from a runner to a soldier to a lieutenant, who was well on his way to becoming a general. When True and Stax arrived at the airstrip, Stax had told True that he understood that she had protection and she was safe wherever she was hiding. But now that he realized that not only were there members of the St. James family who posed a threat, but there were also members of the Charles family, he did not feel comfortable with her returning to her hiding spot without someone he knew and trusted right there with her. Yes, if there was a problem, he'd get the memo, but he'd get it through a game of telephone. She'd call her benefactor would call the Queen Mother would call Manny, and Manny would call him. His preference was that she have somebody right there with her who could communicate with him directly if there was an issue, who he could communicate with if he needed to get a message to her. And if she trusted Stax, then she could trust the person that he'd chosen for that job. Bastian Adam, like True, had Creole roots and a long history with the Lopez family. He'd been hand-selected, groomed, and trained by Stax. He headed up a team that knew how to function like a well-oiled machine, even in his absence, because they'd had to do so before when he was in hiding for those 2 years. He'd proven himself to not only be thorough and certified as a hitter, but dedicated and loyal to a fault. On a job several years back, one of the women on his team had gone down, and he'd refused to leave her, risking his own safety, but more importantly, risking his undercover identity being blown. He went back in, saved her, and in the end blew his own cover. He was forced into hiding until the family could get their hands on and destroy all of the evidence against him, and get their hands on and erase all of the people who had the potential to testify against him. And that effort took 2 long years, during which their enemies, the police, the feds, and Interpol, were all looking for Bastion Adam. And the effort to clear his name required the help of the Lopez's crack legal team, insiders with the feds, a gang of finishers, including Big Wood. True had already made Stax tell her everything there was to know about Bosch before she got out of the chauffeured car and onto the plane. where Bosch was already packed and waiting for her. But she wanted to hear the story from the horse's mouth. She needed to hear whether he was going to be grandiose, exaggerate his prowess, drop names, or use the details to try to convince her that she should give him her trust. Anything that didn't ring true, that didn't smell right, was going to result in him losing his life at 30,000 feet because True was taking no chances. Once one person in a leadership position in an organization like the St. James family or the Charles family turned villain, there was no way to know how many other people they'd recruited, blackmailed, manipulated, or downright tricked into supporting their dirty deeds and diabolical plans. And it was clear that even after Amir's death, whomever he and Stanley were collaborating with or using within their respective organizations were still executing the plan that Amir and Stanley had in play. And until the other families or her benefactor had a thorough understanding of what the ultimate goal was, how the goal was to be achieved, who the goal was going to benefit, and who all the players were, True was taking no chances. She was staying in a small guest house on an estate owned by her benefactor where she had no staff, no security, and there were only two other people who knew where she was, a local pastor and her benefactor's attorney, both of whom had been sworn to secrecy and neither of whom were new to this. Meanwhile, at the main house in Denton, Texas, the Queen Mother has called a family meeting. She's in the middle of saying, "No, I don't know where True is, but I know who knows where True is, and she's safe. Take a page from my book and let that be enough. Manny and I are gathering information and evidence, and we've got an ace in the hole who's working behind the scenes, helping us get the grass cut so we can see all the snakes. As of right now, it doesn't look like anybody in the Baptiste or Lopez families have been compromised. In over 100 years, we have never been in a situation like this. Obviously, the whole family can't go into hiding. But obviously, if I thought that was necessary, I'd pull that trigger. Wood is in Puerto Rico, and that's where he will remain. He has personal work that he needs to do. And the minute we believe that he has his head back on straight, he and Q will be working the other angle, the international trafficking angle. I've pulled Chantal, Simone, and Star's security and doubled and replaced them with my own. Sincere, Saint, and Catherine are in a secure location until further notice. Stephanie and Salema will remain right here. Corey, I know it was not your preference that Stephanie reside at the family complex because of her pursuits, but it's a lot easier to increase security and keep everybody right here and to have everybody split up and spread out, especially since she and Salema are on a sabbatical. Salema said, "A sabbatical? I thought you said we were working remotely." Renni, who was patched in virtually, said, "Who ever heard of being a remote gangster?" The Queen Mother said, "Technically you are, but anything I assign you to do needs to be completed from the Lopez estate. While the technology is in place to keep your digital work safe here, Q has put his foot down, and I agree with his position. It's less risky for you to drive with a contingent of soldiers from here to Dallas and work from a location that's intended to support that work than to make this community hide. My suggestion is if you get bored, y'all can spend this time planning Stephanie and Corey's second wedding, baby showers for all these new additions to the family, and helping Angela over at Vibrantly Youth. You're not going to miss out on no money." Then she looked at Wise and said, "I know that you are in an uncomfortable position. I'm sure that you have some words for me, but I'm going to say this to you in front of everybody. Get over it. Your sister helped your brother put the lives of this entire family in danger. And while your brother is deceased, your sister is still participating in the execution of his plan. And that might be hard for you to believe, but I've seen the video of True's interrogation of Amira. And I've also seen the video of your conversation with her on the airplane. Your sister lied to you, just like she lied to True. And there aren't a whole lot of reasons for that. And just so you know, True gave her very explicit conditions under which she'd keep her life. The fact that she's trying to weasel her way onto this property tells me that she has a death wish. And the next time she finds herself with her life on the line, I won't send a soldier, an airplane, or make a single solitary phone call on your behalf or anyone else's. Have I made myself clear?" Wise said, "Yes, ma'am. But can I see that video?" The Queen Mother said, "For what? You can't take my word for it?" Wise said, "No, I believe you. But since she's decided to lie to me, I need to see just how much lying she's doing." The Queen Mother then gave all of the family members instructions Instructions about how to move, how to handle the various possible schemes that they might be faced with, what to do if they're in a situation that doesn't seem right, and a variety of other things that, for the most part, they already knew. But she wanted to ensure that they stayed on their P's and Q's. And when the meeting ended, she played the video back of True's conversation with Amira. And Wise was flabbergasted. His sister didn't lie a little, she lied a whole lot. He looked at Salema and said, "She wasn't in the back seat of our father's car. I was. She doesn't even have any memories of that man. I do. I'm the one who..." Salema said, "I know, babe, I know." She did not want Wise to go down that rabbit hole. He'd woken up in cold sweats and damn near in tears more times than she could count, from nightmares and flashbacks of seeing his father murdered when he was 6 years old and his sister was barely 2. The fact that his sister had commandeered that real trauma and regurgitated it in an effort to manipulate True after True had told her that there was nothing she could say that would change her fate, said that Amira was playing the long game and they needed to find out what she was up to ASAP. Salema said, "We need to know everywhere she goes. We need to hear every conversation she has, see every text message she sends. We also need her fully examined by Maribel. And we need that in utero DNA test. She put your life in danger, Wise. When you went to New York to save hers, you don't have to worry about True offing her. Because if that's not Big Wood's baby, I'm getting Renni and her chemicals to Texas. And I don't give a damn what effect that's going to have on her unborn baby. I'm going to get the truth out of her. We don't have 6 months to wait." Meanwhile, over at the hotel, where Amira and Mrs. Ali are staying temporarily, Mrs. Ali is taking a long soak in the hotel tub, and Amira is playing with her life. She's using the brand new cell phone that Wise gave her before he left her at the hotel to text Big Wood from a number that he's never seen before. Therefore, he didn't have it blocked. She's apologized for all of the drama that she created and thanked him profusely for saving her life. She's also explained to him that he is in fact her baby's father and sent him a picture of the ultrasound with the genitals circled and the words, "It's a boy." And Big Wood is looking at these text messages thinking to himself, this really about to be a Donovan, Veronica, and Destiny situation. But I'm going to have to kill my baby mama. Big Wood wrote back, "Do not contact me until we have a DNA test." Then he pulled up the server that True had used to communicate with him and started typing his heart out. When Amira saw his response, she started rapping a ratchet song by one of her favorite Memphis artists, P. Diamond, and doing a little jig, because she knew exactly what kind of man she'd gotten knocked up by. He might just hate her guts, but he was going to make sure her and her baby had everything they needed, including him.